Now, just so everybody's aware, we've got a lot of people here tonight, and we're going to change the agenda slightly to accommodate a few things. We are going to start out with the requests and comments from the public regarding items on the agenda not requiring a public hearing. The time limit to speak is 3 minutes, and if we could have the list from Becca, we'll get started. Thank you, Becca.
Oh, lost it. Thank you. $12.
Okay. Thank you.
First person, Tony Farrell.
And if you would just step up to the mic when your name is called, state your name and address for the record, and then your 3 minutes will start. Thank you.
Thank you and good evening. I had the opportunity to attend.
Hey, Tony, can you give us your name and
yes,
address
I
for the
can.
record?
Tony Farrell, Senior, 2600 Meadowview Drive in Janesville.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to attend the Shine open house, and I found the Shine company to be very professional, cordial, and dedicated. I was very impressed with their willingness to answer everyone's questions. For me, it was a very positive experience. In a discussion with their management team, I felt a real genuine interest in our community and how they would like to be involved. I explained that I have had the privilege of living in Rock County for 63 years, 45 years in Janesville, and 46 as a business person. I explained to them our assets as a community, all of the following with excellent ratings: law enforcement, fire protection, schools and colleges, transportation, city and county governments and their services, superior health care facilities, and a very strong business community that cares. The list goes on and on. I also commented about our dedicated workforce, always scoring on top of all the ratings, always striving to do a terrific job. I could not be more proud of the workers in Janesville and Rock County. I know there will be discussions and concerns about the project. I appreciate, respect, and honor all comments. That's what makes our city great. In conversing with my friends and businesses across the United States, it has become very apparent to me on how competitive it has become to attract businesses to their communities. City against city, county against county, state against state. Author Randall C. Willis' article, America's Biotech Heartland, claimed that Wisconsin is making its influence felt. Our landscape is changing, and I was recently informed by a reliable source Madison had grown from 3 major research companies to over 300. The University Research Park alone now has 126 tenants and more than 3,500 employees with more than $260 million in their annual payroll. They paid $3.6 million per year in property taxes. With Madison nearby and proud of North Star and Beloit, considering Shine in Janesville and all the support companies may follow, Janesville is truly the best kept secret. This is an opportunity for us to become a research center, and I'm very grateful the Shine Company has selected us. I would like to thank Vic Grassman, Janesville, the economic director, for his hard work in attracting businesses to Janesville, along with James Otterstein, economic development manager for Rock County. They are an excellent team, and they work very hard together.
Wrap it up. You're over your time. I'm
if you
sorry
should
to cut
decide
you
to
off
continue with the Shine project, I certainly would like to be the first to give a warm welcome and wish them the very best. I'm staying positive, and I want all prospective businesses to know Janesville is a great place to live and a great place to do business.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie Backenkeller.
Just before you get started, Julie, the camera crews, if I'd ask you to keep your movement to a minimum, okay? So sort of find a spot and stay there. Thank you.
Julie Backenkeller, 719 North Grant Avenue. A couple of concerns with the Shine incentive package. The banks were allowed to ask questions and look at the project, and they turned down their offers to finance. Venture capitalists were allowed to ask questions and look at the project. They turned it down, and unless the city guarantees the loans. And residents have been allowed a week to look at the package with few opportunities to review and ask questions before we decide if this is a project that we want to get involved with. My questions are, why aren't we using venture capital without a city guarantee? Banks and venture capitalists are not wanting to fund this project. Why would taxpayers want to take this risk? And I realize that's going to create jobs, but something's not right when other people are turning this down, and I think we need to look at that. Another thing is, have we done a fiscal analysis on this project? If we run infrastructure out past vacant land, clear across from the airport, are we now going to need another water tower down there because they don't have the water pressure that they need for this project? We've already heard that we need one on the northeast side now, which is $8.3 million that's out there somewhere that we're going to need soon. So I guess what we need to look at also is if we need to borrow money for the $4 million, is that debt service included in the money somewhere? Have we looked at that? And another question is, let's say Shine builds their facility and production is within sight and they run out of money. So they come to the city and they say, okay, Janesville, we need an additional $3 million and then we're ready to go. And what do we do at that point? Do we invest more money? Do we let them close and then we're stuck with the bill? The city manager has noted some concerns in the economic development memo, and I want to bring a couple of those up. First of all is the environmental concerns. The company is in the early stages of different processes, but the agreement only provides narrow discretion for the city in the future concerning environmental issues. That kind of makes me a little bit nervous. The last one on his list is the challenges facing the company that could put a portion of the city's funding at risk includes economics of the project, federal regulatory process, competition, including subsidies from other countries which are part of economics, and providing a plan to manage any environmental issues. But what's not on this list is emerging technology. I think that's a challenge that's going to face us, because in the March issue of Popular Science, there's an article in here, it just came out, about a 17-year-old kid that has created one of these reactors to make medical radioisotopes. They have it. I spoke with his nuclear physics professor at the University of Nevada today, and I think this is something that we need to take a deep breath and step back and take a couple of weeks and talk to some of these people about this, because if they're trying to get this technology so that it's in every hospital, so that there isn't that time lag thing where it loses its efficiency. And I don't know anything about that kind of thing. One more quick thing, and that is, I know that there's a lot of people that support this project here and that they want to give their opinion that this is a great project, but there are no guarantees. So as a resident, a small business owner, and a taxpayer, I want to ask everybody that's going to give their opinion in favor of this to put down a check for $100,000 or $1 million in escrow as a guarantee for your opinion on this project. Because indeed, if your opinion is correct, then you have nothing to lose. But if Shine doesn't open the facility, if something else goes wrong that we're not looking at, then your opinion will be backed up with your check. And you won't have put residents on the line for this. So thanks.
Al Limbrick.
Al Limbrick, 541 Miller Avenue. In reference to the Shine project, Shine has already obtained millions of other funding. If the city provides close to $5 million worth of infrastructure and other costs, I see no reason to risk another $4 million of taxpayers' money to back private, high-risk loans that no one else is willing to back. It's very high risk, as is this whole project. Many danger and safety issues are unknown and are being ignored concerning the building and site. The process Shine tends to use is experimental, no track record. a risky nuclear uranium process with no plans yet for storage or disposal of nuclear waste, and risk of contamination from leaks, breakdowns, repairs, and accidents. Airplanes flying overhead every day. The site is not even approved by regulators yet, nor are NRC building requirements known. Who pays for nuclear site cleanup? How much water will it use, and so forth? Most businesses will not locate near such a facility, and the TIF will never be filled. This should be delayed for at least 90 days so citizens and council can have more details and answers now, not 4 years from now. This is not a friendly environmental business. We are now borrowing for everything in sight. Next year and beyond, there will again be less state and federal aid and more city budget shortfalls. The city has multi-million-dollar projects coming up. Our taxes and fees are being raised every year. If this needless spending and borrowing continues, I and many others feel we are being forced to consider moving out of town. The high Black Hawk Tech taxes would again skyrocket. On another topic, on Resolution 2012-880, I am strongly opposed to some council members using their city council nonpartisan positions and city officials' time and wasting our time to push their own biased personal political agendas at the federal level via the city council. This is not city business. It's unethical and shameful, in my opinion. It splits the council and soils the respect one has for the city council. I thought we had a code of conduct adopted for council members. Well, what are the penalties? That's what should be discussed now. We don't need Chicago-style politics here. This reflects badly on our city, and please restore the meaning of nonpartisan to our city council. Do not pass or submit this personal political agenda resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Fuller? Oh, Farrell. Sorry.
My writing is very poor. My name is Jim Farrell. I live at 1427 North Harmony Drive. I'm a candidate for the Janesville Council election in April. The comments I have tonight concern the vote on the city subsidies and loan guarantees for the company Shine. I spent my entire career in industrial accounting, which totals over 40 years. I concluded my career in September. I was a controller for middle-sized companies the last 16 years before I retired. The controller this title of a controller is used for the individual that manages the finances of a company. In my positions, I was heavily involved in the decision-making processes for the acquisition of new customers and the financing of the development of new products. The controller's job is to determine the creditworthiness of a customer before orders are placed, and the validity of vendors before purchase orders are placed. I may be more adverse to risk than many of you because of my career background. However, I have many concerns about the subsidization and the incentives that are being proposed in order to entice Shine to operate in Janesville. The Gazette has thoroughly gone into detail about the proposed deal, so I do not need to go into that tonight. The risk, as stated by several council persons, is substantial. The technology is new. The approval process required for production by regulatory agencies is lengthy, at least 2 years. I want to make one thing very clear. I am, as we all are, very eager to add jobs to this community and to see economic development improve in Janesville. I was never an impediment to growth in companies that I served. I did, however, perform due diligence to make sure there would not be unprofitable customers added or unprofitable products produced, and that the owners did not make financial decisions that weakened their company. I am aware that the city engaged a consultant to perform an analysis of the viability of the Shine Company venture. To my knowledge, this document has not been made available to the public. It seems to me this report should be available to anyone that wants to see it. There has been a lack of transparency in this entire process. I realize some meetings need to be closed to the public, and Shine may be reluctant to have their information on financial projections and technology available to the public. The city manager has not made a recommendation, to my knowledge, on this deal. I also sense very lukewarm support by the president of the council and reservations by the vice president of the council. I urge the council to have a public hearing on this matter and table any vote tonight, and that the consultant report be made available to the public. I have restricted my comments to the financial aspects of this deal. I know there are equally important concerns
Need to, in all fairness, you need to wrap it up. Thank you.
about the effects on the environment. Those concerns were already discussed. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Jim Purviance. Oh, did I massacre somebody's last name?
That's my name, but I did not sign up. Okay.
Oh,
Or else I signed the wrong sheet, sorry.
okay. Did you want to speak at the end of the meeting? No. Okay. Edward Spensky.
Well, compared to the former speakers, I'm certainly less prepared. This came on kind of suddenly this afternoon, but my concern is the ice arena. I stood at this very podium when the initial ice arena was proposed, and I was not in favor of it then. We had very glowing reports on the type. Excuse me, I'm Ed Spensky, 1411 South Terrace Street, Janesville, Wisconsin.
Okay, thank you.
Anyhow, I stood at this very podium and I heard glowing reports of how this was going to enhance the community of Janesville, and financially it was going to be very rewarding, and it was going to pay for itself and put money in the coffers, none of which proved to be true. We are now, and I understand that this is pretty far down the road and I'm pretty laid in on it, but don't bring things to the council, they certainly can't respond to them. We've already committed $1.9 million, and the numbers here, the figures that I'm reading are really don't make a lot of sense, but it looks like we're proposing to borrow another $650,000 this year, $651,000 in 2012, and then we have proposals on the board here for another $1.9 million in improvements. Not necessarily have all been considered at this point, but anyhow, we're then well past the $2.73 million, and I think we're being fiscally irresponsible to the members of the city of Janesville. We've lost a lot of our tax base. We probably will lose a little bit more before we work through all this thing. I can't see where this is going to really help bring people in. And I'm thinking that the corporate people that are involved in the hockey club here, if we were to offer the ice arena to them for $1, they would turn us down flat, because they have somebody now that is going to provide them with a stellar facility, and it's going to be on the taxpayers' rolls. I just think that I've lived here all my life. I've been a taxpayer. I have some other property in Janesville. I'm 72 years old and I'm still working because I can't afford any more tax increases on my income. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Councilmember McDonald has a comment or a question?
Just a comment before we move on, because I saw some folks out in the audience. The licenses proposed by the ALAC for Romano's Pizza and 411 LLC have been approved. So just so you guys know, thanks.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's going to be a long meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Okay, next person.
Gary Utterberg.
Gary Edberg, 5128 North Buckskin Drive. Some people that spoke before me, Al Embrick, the lady, the other gentleman over here, were very eloquent and dittos to everything that they said. If it's a good idea for Shine today, it'll be a good idea 3 months from now. We have to think about the money we're spending. You're trying to drive people right into the ground. I did the math, $9 million, 125 jobs, probably from out of town, $70-some thousand per job. No guarantees. But like I said, I feel like a pair of brown shoes in a room full of tuxedos. I'm just a working guy. So I'm not going to dazzle you with my eloquence, but I hope I can make you stop and think. We just cannot keep squandering taxpayer money. I want development as much as the next guy. And if this is a stand-up company, they ought to have a little skin in the game. Maybe half. That's one subject I wanted to touch on. The other two are issues that I don't think that the City Council ought to be touching. Going on a constitutional amendment? My God, you people got too much time. Too much time on your hands. And evidently too much money the way you want to spend it. Maybe we ought to revisit the wheel tax and get rid of it, seeing as though you don't need all this extra money. And finally, the proposal on health insurance, that's insane. If we are going full blast, had money to burn, maybe you could make some arguments. But when you got people in town here that are losing their homes, getting taxed at $100,000, and the realtor comes up and says, well, we can only sell it for $60,000, and you guys are just whistling down the yellow brick road. Please, please, think about what you're doing with my money. I heard the quote that the wonderful thing about communism is it works right up until they've spent the last dollar of someone else's paycheck. Quit spending our money. Thank you.
Thank you. And you did a very good job, and I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Mary Havoc. Sounds good. Sorry about that.
Could we have your name and address for the record, please?
Mary Vukovic, 811 North Washington, and I'm probably a bit more scruffy than him. And this environment makes me a little nervous, so hopefully I'll be able to get my point across. I'm going to address the last subject that this gentleman brought up, and that's providing health care and benefits to domestic partners. I've lived in this community for 27 years. I've raised 5 children. I have 8 grandchildren. I've worked for the school district and for the county, and I've loved both my jobs. I was married for 25 years, had every benefit available, simply because I was married to a man. 11 years ago, I was divorced. 10 years ago, I became in a committed relationship with what I refer to as my life partner. The state now refers to us as domestic partners. We together, along with my ex-husband, have raised these 5 kids and 8 grandchildren. We have taught them to treat everyone with respect, everyone the way they want to be treated, and everyone with fairness. When my grandsons ask me why we can't get married, I have to explain to a 6-year-old why we can't get married. All he's ever seen is us together. Now we're talking about health benefits. not religious benefits, not moral benefits. We're talking about health insurance, which is an employment benefit. My partner works in this city, has worked in this city for over 20 years. She owns her own business. She pays taxes. We pay taxes, just like everyone else. The amount of money that has come out of our household over the course of 10 years, with me being unable to insure her, I'm not the greatest at math, but it's somewhere around $65,000 to $70,000. Now, I am working next to a person in the different areas that I've worked in, doing the exact same job as those people. Yet I do not have the benefit of insuring my partner. That's money that could be spent in this community that is not being spent in this community. We're talking about equality, and I'm so thankful to the men on this committee that have brought this subject up. We're talking about equality. We're talking about fairness. We're talking about equal opportunity in employment, equal insurance, equal benefits. There's other counties in this state that have these benefits. There's cities that have these benefits. There are many private industries that offer these benefits. And I would implore the city of Janesville to become more progressive, treat their employees as equal and not second-class citizens. In some instances, where if you are married, you're considered better than or equal to, deserving of more than people that are in registered domestic partnerships.
True.
Okay.
Thank
you for your time, and please give some thought to this.
Thank you for
Let's
your
teach our
comments.
children what fairness and equality and the golden rule really means. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael McCarthy?
Michael McCarthy, 4121 Bordeaux Drive. On the health care benefits for domestic partners, why would the taxpayers of Janesville want to put an extra burden on themselves? We want to lower the tax rates, not increase them. 1% of the health care, as according to the Janesville Gazette, which we all know is a reputable newspaper, is $70,000. Then 100% of the health care is $7 million. That's a lot of money, isn't it, for health care? That's just the city of Janesville. Think of what it is in the whole state of Wisconsin. That's enough. Susan Milesk, I brutalized her name, the Human Resources Director, said, and I quote, "It's difficult to predict the financial implications that we would not know the costs until they occur." We all love surprises, don't we? That would be a dandy. Your taxes are going up because we added some people to the health care. Let's move on to the ice arena. Why would the taxpayers of Janesville want to spend millions of dollars to put some lipstick on a pig? Let's face it. What are you proposing to do to that that ice arena? Let me see. We need a new roof. We need a new floor. We need new walls. We need lighting. We need this. We need that. Why pump more money into that thing? Tear it down, make it into the fire station that was supposed to be, build a new one nice and close to I-90, because the people that come in here for those ice hockey things come from other places. Not around here. They aren't coming from in the town usually. The teams are coming from all other places. So, build a new one. How much more is it going to possibly cost? I'm not really in favor of the ice arena, but I'd rather see my tax money spent for a new one that looks like something than piece together some thing that everybody goes, "Ooh, look at that." You know, we're going to build a little addition here, a little addition there. Build the right one. As far as Shine's concerned, we all know what Shine is. It's a new company, and we all know that a new company, oh my gosh, we've got to get a new company in here, don't we? But has anybody read anything up on molybdenum 99? I doubt it. Have you? Do you know what they use to make molybdenum 99? U-235. That's the same thing Iran is trying to make, because with 70 kilograms of U-235, you can build 85 kilograms of U-235. You can make a dirty bomb the same size as one that blew up Hiroshima. Is that what we really want here? Low enriched uranium, LEW, contains less than 20% of uranium U-235 and cannot be used to make a nuclear bomb. What is Shine proposing? Is it HEU or LEU? Big difference. Plus, this is a short life fusion product with a half-life of 2.7 days that decays into technetium-99.
You need to wrap up your comments.
All right, I'll
Okay,
do it.
Well, you've got about 5 seconds.
All right.
Thank you.
Less than 5% of the targets that they use for this are consumed. The rest is stockpiled. Do we want to be a nuclear stockpile place? I don't think so.
Thank you for your comments.
Andrea Breyermoon.
Andrea Breyermoon, 339 South Locust Street. The prior speaker certainly terrifies me. We get to be the bullseye for the next terrorist, thieves. How exciting. Puts us on the map. Okay, I guess Shine calls themselves Shine because maybe they can make Janesville glow in the dark. When the Janesville Gazette spends half of the front page telling us that we don't have any concerns about our safety, that scared the bejeevers out of me to get all of that. Yeah, okay, then radiation. Well, it's only as much radiation as what you would get for an x-ray. Oh, okay, times the 60,000 people that live in Janesville. So I only get exposed to 1/60,000th of the radiation because we all share equally in that exposure. When Chernobyl had their meltdown, you know what they call a mailbox in Chernobyl now, don't you? It's called a microwave oven. 80% of jobs are created by existing small businesses that are expanding and by startups, and yet 80% of our new job creation money is not going to our startups and to our small businesses. We're spending millions of dollars on corporate welfare. Maybe Shine didn't pick us. Maybe we were the only city desperate enough to consider allowing them in. Are we now the landfill for undesirable businesses? Do private investors not want to invest because it would be a toxic investment? If we had ward supervisors elected, if we had a citizen budget committee so that you could be removed from the process one step and not get avalanched by city employees and well-heeled, really good-looking outsiders. Maybe if our citizen appointment process was a committee rather than just an advisory group. Maybe if we had fewer city employees being put into positions of overseeing us, we wouldn't have this discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.
Guy Smith. And that is the last one.
Okay. Yep, we'll take care of it here in a second.
Okay, my voice might get a little shaky, and I had a speech, but I'm just referring to my notes here.
Could I have your name and address for the record, please?
Guy Smith, 2413 Hawaii Drive, Janesville. As far as the TIF agreement or whatever, you guys are annexing some land. There's apparently 224 acres of vacant land sitting on the south side of town, and then you want to purchase 84 additional acres at $18,000 an acre. That comes to $1.5 million, over $1.5 million of our money. And I don't see why you would want to purchase land when there's already land available. So you might want to consider that just to save us a buck or two, because the only reason the company really wants to put the site right there is so that they have a closer access to the airport. But essentially, it's saving them 2 minutes in transport. They want, if the radioactive material has a shelf life of 2.5 days, 5 minutes extra down Highway 51 or right there on the corner of 11 is ridiculous. To spend $1.5 million to save these guys 5 minutes. I mean, the guy in the truck could go to the bathroom, and there you just spent another $1.5 million of our money. And in the long term, a lot of businesses are not going to want to relocate to Janesville when they hear that we're making uranium-based products in the city, much less in the TIF district, right in that neighborhood. This is all over the internet from the Janesville Gazette, and it will continue to be covered. And I know a lot of citizens don't agree with this, but like I said, in the long term, that 224 acres is going to sit vacant forever if you pass this at all, even if you put the thing on the site. So, and as far as jobs, they said that they're going to create high-paying jobs, $50,000 to $60,000. Those jobs would have to require some kind of nuclear degree, a bachelor's degree. Nobody in Janesville has this. I graduated from URock. I can't get a job with my Associate of Arts and Science unless I want to be an artist or a scientist. But these $50,000 to $60,000 paying jobs, there's going to be a handful of them, not 125 of them. There's going to be a handful of people. And they're going to come from places like Chicago and Green Bay. And the people probably won't want to live next to a nuclear facility. So you won't see your tax money coming in from their property taxes because they won't be living in Janesville. They'll be living in Milton, Edgerton, other places. So those wages amount to like almost $7 million in wages that you guys are looking at coming into the city to some citizens, but they're not going to be our money. It's going to be poured through the community at our expense to our environment, which is my foremost concern. I hear that there's competition in Beloit from a company called, what is this? North Star. They're backed by Diane Hendricks of ABC. They're a pretty successful company. That's private investor money. And if they're, if this other operation is fully operational, they're going to blow these guys out of the water. They'll go out of business. You guys will lose your investment money.
You need to...
Sure, I'll wrap it up. I want to talk about the U word, uranium.
You're going to have to wrap it up in about 5 seconds because we're over your time.
I just have like 10 seconds. Just a minute.
Speak quick.
Shine wants to produce MO99 using enriched uranium, which is source material trucked into Rock County. North Star will do this without uranium, enriched or not uranium-based, and produce the same MO99. So they have a different process that doesn't cost lives, safety.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Now, I know that there were some people that came in late that wanted to speak, so what I'm going to do is if there's anybody else that would like to speak, please step up to the mic, give us your name and address for the record, and then you'll have your 3 minutes. No, there's no more. Come on, Bill. You said that was the last one on the list, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening. Bill McCoy, 1326 Putnam Avenue, Janesville, Wisconsin, 53546. I would like to see the council maybe let this go back for either 60 to 90 days or even 30 days so the citizens of Janesville can really get this looked at and checked at and get some answers, questions answered that we did not get answered with the people. And hopefully that we can get a hold of some nuclear people so we can also talk to within the area of Region 3, which that's what we are in, instead of having to call Washington and find out some information, as well as calling Texas too. And because when I did talk to the Texas people, first thing they said, we don't want you shouldn't be having these things next to any housing. It should be on the outskirts of an industrial area. Well, we got houses out there by that, number one. And the other thing is a food chain, in case we would have a leak. It's not saying we're going to, just in case we would, for a gas leak or something like that. And the way they explained it to me, it's just like a dust storm. We'll lay on top of water. Sure, it will decay within 66 hours, but there still will be a little bit of it floating around. So if it gets on the feathers of these birds, and it's time for these birds to go to market, man's going to lose a lot of money. So, you know, let us really look into a lot of these other things that we have not looked into. And money-wise, for this, I know it says in there in our paperwork that we're going to be using TIF districts and everything else to get them and guarantee their loans and everything else. I hope there's other investments. We're going to be hurting if they do go under. So let us look at this thing and let the citizens of Janesville really ask a lot of questions with Shine. And council, you guys was all there except Stevers, and so that people can even ask you guys questions there about this. It would be a lot more better than let's just, because you guys had, what, a year and a half, year and 2 years to look at all this. Let the citizens of Janesville have their say in it as well. And I do thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that, whoever, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, I'm Greg
Name and
Pfeiffer.
address for the record.
Greg Pfeiffer. I live at 4201 Savannah Court in Middleton, Wisconsin. The CEO of Shine Medical Technologies. I apparently signed up on the sign-up sheet for the end of the meeting, so I apologize for not being on the sheet, but appreciate the time to speak. I know we don't have a lot of time, and I don't have a whole lot to say. We are here to answer the council's questions as the night goes on, but Shine is very much looking forward to building a business in Janesville, to building a future in Janesville. It is an exciting company. It is the next big thing. You know, Popular Science article talks about making medical isotopes with nuclear fusion. That's actually what we do. It's hundreds of times less waste generation than what is out in the market today. So it really is the next big thing. We've managed to gain a lot of confidence from investors. We've successfully raised venture capital, in fact, having competition in the last round, but need a lot of different sources of money to get this project to come to fruition. The estimated project cost in total is around $85 million. So the company is bearing most of the burden for this production facility. Let's see. I'm not surprised that there are a lot of questions around this development agreement. We, economically and from a safety standpoint, will do our best to continue to work with the community to answer any questions anyone may have. We have worked with the city leaders and the city council for over 2 years now. I have very high confidence, this may not mean much to you, that they have done a very good job to protect the city's interests. The reason it's taken so long is because they've brought in so many experts, they've studied it so hard and done the best they can to represent you. If I were a Janesville citizen, which I look forward to becoming, I would be proud that this was my city council. So I just wanted to leave you with that, my experience working with them over the last few years. Thank you.
Thank you. And could we have your name and address for the record, please?
Tim.
Yeah, it's always a great way to start, isn't it?
Was that set up or what?
Okay, you okay?
Yeah, we got it. We're good.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Tim Weber, 1615 Newport Avenue. This is what the city has been working for since the closure of the GM plant. As Vic Grassman has said many times, we need a game changer. The Shine project is a game changer for Janesville. The reality is we need several more projects of this type coming into our community in the next few years to get Janesville back to the thriving community it once was. Shine could go to another city and establish their company, but they've chosen Janesville. Both the public and the private sectors have worked together on this project and they have done their due diligence. Janesville staff have worked closely with Shine to get the best possible outcome for the citizens of Janesville. Is there risk? Yes. There always is. There is calculated risk in business. I guarantee that Mr. Pfeiffer has spent a considerable amount of time refining his business model and financial projections to ensure their success. No one goes into a venture like this hoping they will succeed. By the time By this time in the process, they know they will succeed if they follow their business plan. I vividly recall 10 plus years ago when my wife and I brought a senior community project to these council chambers. I heard more reasons of why we were not going to succeed than I care to remember. We weren't going to get financing. We had no experience in the operation of the community. We did not need it in Janesville. We already had Cedar Crest, and the list went on and on and on. The reality is we did our homework. We had a great project. We had a great business model. We hired good people, and we succeeded. The key in all this is we were given a chance. The council listened to the city staff's positive recommendations. The council members did their due diligence, and they allowed us a chance to succeed. You have the same situation here tonight. Give Shine a chance to succeed. Don't stop this project before it even gets started. As you well know, there are numerous markers along the way that have to be met to continue the process. Both financial and regulatory benchmarks are strategically placed in this process to ensure success. This project is no whim. Some of you will argue we don't need Shine now that North Star is coming to Beloit. What a great opportunity for Janesville and Beloit to have two innovative companies become part of their communities. For years, we have Mercy and Dean St. Mary's as healthcare providers in our community. They both have worked to push each other to excel in the healthcare field, and look what is done for the citizens of Janesville. We, the citizens of Janesville, are the recipients of world-class healthcare facilities. They both have state-of-the-art equipment and facilities, and that's right here in our own backyard. Competition is a good thing. And finally, I want to quote James Otterstein. I'm sure most of you have heard James make this statement numerous times over the past couple of years. Perception is reality. If you turn this project down, you send a very clear message to businesses interested in locating in our community. Janesville is open for business. Have the vision and the strength to allow this project to move forward. Please vote yes, and let Shine be a partner in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to make comments? Is there anyone else? No, you already had your kick at the cat. Anyone else? If that, we're going to go on to the rest of the agenda. We're going to move things around a little bit so that we can accommodate some people, because we've got some discussions, I think, that are going to go a little bit longer. So I'd like to move to new business item number 7, review and approval of an economic development grant to Decisions LLC, DBA, doing business as Life Lounge and Banquets, Life, located at 1824 River Street. And Gail, I understand, has the presentation. And do we know where Gail's at?
Maybe Dwayne can do that. Dante can give the presentation. You probably didn't expect to be on this early.
No, I know he did. That's okay. Well,
he's here.
He's here. There he is. Hey, you know, anything, they always say if you're going to make an entrance, and I guess that was it, huh? Sorry about that, Gail.
Thank you, Council President. Gail Price, Manager of Building and Development Services.
That's so
Been catching my breath.
Okay.
Were there any steps out there?
My apologies.
I'm sorry.
The City Clerk's Office has received a request from Dante Evans, who represents Decisions LLC, doing business as Life Lounge and Banquets.
Excuse me. Sprinted, did ya? Just take a second.
I got to catch up and work my workouts, apparently.
Uh-huh.
The request is for an economic development grant for a restaurant and bar located at 18 through 24 River Street. In December of 2011, Mr. Evans was granted a liquor license for the establishment and paid the requisite $10,000 fee. 10 years ago, the City Council established a policy for reimbursement of these reserve licenses based on 3 criteria: focusing on redevelopment of an existing building, demonstration of investment in the project, and last, that the use is at least 300 feet away from residential development. Staff has reviewed the request and has found that the request meets all three of the criteria. The Alcohol License Advisory Committee reviewed the request at their February 7th meeting and recommended approval unanimously. With that, staff and the Alcohol License Advisory Committee would recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. I'm sorry that I threw you for a loop there. I really have to apologize. Are there any questions for Sam? Okay. What is the council's wishes? Councilmember McDonald.
Well, as you know, I typically don't approve of these, but in this case, I think with what we didn't hear is all the work that he's actually put into redeveloping this property as well. And I think this is an appropriate time to give this economic development grant, so I will make a motion to award the $10,000 grant.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember McDonald, second by Councilmember Liebert to give the $10,000 economic development grant to Decisions LLC, doing business as Life Lounge and Banquets. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember McDonald, Councilmember Liebert.
I just think what Mr. Evans has done with the location is great, and again, another great example of a small business. Look forward to supporting it.
Okay. With that, council, please vote. And that passes unanimously. Thanks, Gail. Sorry about that.
Thank you. That's all right.
Okay, now we're going to go back to
spin the wheel.
Yeah, exactly. Item number 2 on old business, second reading, public hearing, and action on a proposed ordinance annexing property located at 4021 U.S. Highway 51 South. File ordinance 2012-506. Dwayne.
Thank you, Council President Stever. My name is Dwayne Cherrick. I'm the Planning Services Manager for the City of Janesville. The city has received a unanimous petition to annex approximately 80 acres of land located east of U.S. Highway 51 on the city's far south side. The property is situated directly across from the Southern Wisconsin Regional Airport and is currently in farmland use. The annexation area is contiguous with a large industrial site to the north, which is included in the city's existing TIF District 35. Last December, the council approved a resolution which authorized the acquisition and purchase of property from Art Donaldson, current property owner and petitioner. It is the city's intention to amend the TIF 35 boundary and project plan to include the annexation area within it and allow for industrial expansion and development opportunities on this site. The entire land area is proposed to be zoned M1 light industrial upon annexation. The future land use component of the city's comprehensive plan designates this site as appropriate for light industrial development. The area has been targeted for industrial growth due to its flat topography and proximity to major regional transportation corridors and facilities, including Highway 51, State Highway 11, the Interstate 90 corridor, Beloit Avenue, and the Southern Wisconsin Regional Airport. It is also located within the city's urban service limits, where municipal sewer and water mains already exist along Highway 51 and are available to accommodate projected development. Staff believes these characteristics make the subject property very appropriate for industrial development, including various targeted industries. Last Monday, on February 6th, the Plan Commission unanimously approved the request to rezone the property to the M1 Light Industrial District. This evening, staff is recommending that the council support a motion to adopt ordinance numbers 2012-506 and 2012-507, annexing and zoning property located at 4021 Highway 51 South. I would also note that a public hearing has been scheduled for both of these items, and with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Do you want to ask now? After public hearing. Okay. Could we have the second reading on both 2012 and 2012-506 and 507, please?
Certainly. Ordinance number 2012-506, an ordinance annexing territory in Section 24 in T2N R12E of the 4th PM, Town of Rock, Rock County, Wisconsin. Ordinance number 2012-507, an ordinance changing and establishing the zoning classification of property located south of Avalon Road and east of Highway 51 to M1. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'll open the public hearing, and this is for file ordinance 2012-506 and 507. Is there anyone wishing to speak on the matter? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Step to the podium and please give us your name and address for the record, please.
Are simultaneous speakers? No.
Go ahead.
Touch that. Julie Backenkeller, 719 North Grant Avenue. I've been standing up here talking about farmland preservation with you all since, 2005, and worked very difficult to get the PACE program put in the county. Concerning the TIF district, I want to quote from the Center for Community and Economic Development. TIF is a solution to encourage development in blighted areas, those that are otherwise unlikely to develop or redeveloped. And it talks about what is considered a blighted area. But then it states, blighted area does not include predominantly open land area that has been developed only for agricultural purposes, commonly called greenfield development. Looking ahead 100 years, okay, we're looking for jobs now, I get that, but looking ahead 100 years, take the long view on this. If we continue to expand outward because of whatever project comes along, we're no longer going to be the Rock County for food growth. Globally, there is 3% of the entire surface of the earth that offers inherently fertile soil for food growth. And Rock County has the most fertile land on the face of the earth, found only east of Russia's Ural Mountains, west of Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and in Rock County. And we continue to pave over it. Some place along the line here, we have to come to a boundary to where we say, this is for farmland. The TIF district, the 5.0 shovel-ready site that's down on the corner of Prairie Avenue and Highway 11 is organically farmed, 200 acres, yet it's waiting to be paved over. To me, that's just nuts. It's craziness. You know, there's food shortages all over the globe, but here we're worried about it's flat, so we can pave it really easy. My other concern is that we continue to expand and we're losing the rural character between Janesville and Milton, between Janesville and Beloit. We're going to be like one big conglomerate all the way through. And I know nobody cares about this, but I do, so I have to say something. So farmland preservation. Thanks.
Thank you, Julie.
Andrea Breyermoon, 339 South Locust Street. So basically, I guess we need to get like 200 citizens together to pay $100 each so that we can hire an attorney for we the people, because it's pretty clear that these TIF districts are breaking the law and aren't even allowable. And every time we amend a TIF district, it gets another 20-year life. And statistically, it's been showing, when you do the math, that we don't get our money back when you depreciate over 20 years. And then by the time it's supposed to make us money and give the money back, it's old technology. And so they just leave and find someone else to give them corporate welfare again somewhere else. So you're killing us here. And I'm really concerned about the process here in Janesville, where you buy the land, you annex the land, you zone the land, so that it's a done deal. We're up to our eyebrows in debt. It's, you know, you give 3 minutes for the citizens to whine a little bit, you know, and then it gets railroaded through. And I suppose maybe that makes us look pretty attractive to Shine as well. It's like, oh, this will be a piece of cake. It will be an avalanche. Citizens, step aside. You got no leverage, you got no representation, you got no power, you got no recourse. You're just dead in the water. So anyway, happy avalanche.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? And your name and address for the
Mike
record.
McCarthy, 4121 Bordeaux Drive. If this was a spotted owl out there, we'd have to study that for a long time on that land out there. What are we going to pay for this stuff? $18,000 an acre? Boy, I wish I would have bought that place a while ago. I don't think there's been any auctions around here lately where you can get $18,000 an acre for farmland, is there? Must really grow some good crops. Anyway, there's 2 places on Earth that have 6 foot of topsoil, and one of them is Rock County. The other one is over in Africa. So think about that before you pave too much of this over, like the other 2 people said.
Thank you.
Al Lembrick, 541 Miller Avenue. I agree with Julie on what she said. We got TIF districts all over. We got all kinds of empty land and empty buildings the city owns, and I'd like to know how much property, this vacant property the city owns, and how many vacant buildings the city owns that are not being used. Talked about this going green and all this sustainability stuff, and we're supposed to infill, not gobble up good farmland for who knows what, maybe sit there another 10 years, and we got money invested and no income coming from them, and I just don't think it's a very good idea to keep creating new TIF districts. The other thing I don't like about it is every time a TIF district supposedly gets paid off, the money is shifted over into another TIF, so you never really pay them off because you're just taking that money that you allegedly paid them back, and then you go and transfer it over into another TIF district. So it's just like moving the shells down the road. We get nowhere. We should have money in the bank, not just transferring it to another TIF, and away we go again. We're getting nowhere. We got all this vacant land, vacant TIFs, vacant buildings out there, huge buildings, and nothing happening. You ought to be concentrating on what you got, not grabbing up new stuff and, oh, look how big we are. I think we better work on what we got and improve what we got and do infill and all that kind of stuff. Well, I have all this vacant stuff around, then way out here we got new stuff again. Don't make sense.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Last call, is there anyone else wishing to speak? With that, I'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Rashkin, you had your light on.
Yes, I did. Well, just looking at the information here, it says the city has an accepted offer to purchase the subject property from Mr. Donaldson. I do believe it's important for us as a community to control our own destiny. I think having ownership of this land, whether for this project or for another one, it is important for us to control where we develop. And so I will make the motion to adopt ordinance number 2012-506 and 2012-507, annexing and zoning to M1 property located at 4021 US Highway 51 South.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Rashkin and a second by Councilmember Dongera Adams. Councilmember Rashkin, did you have anything else?
Nothing further, thank you.
Councilmember Dongera Adams. Councilmember McDonald, your light was on.
Thank you, President Stieber. Unlike the economic development grant where I wasn't as true to form as I've been in the past, this one I will stay true to form. I do not vote in favor of annexing farmland. I think the speaker said it very well. We cannot continue to tear up and pave over farmland. And that's not just a Janesville issue. That's not just a Rock County issue. That's not just a state of Wisconsin issue. Food, our food in the country and in the world comes from farms. And as we pave those over for whatever the project may be, that food source is gone. The other thing we have here in Janesville, our groundwater is what supplies our city water. We don't get our water from the Rock River, contrary to what a lot of people believe. And as we continue to pave over land, our groundwater aquifer does not get recharged. We need to have a long-term view on these things, and the more we take out of the ground and it doesn't go back in, common sense tells you someday that will run out. Janesville will have problems. It's not going to be next year. It's not going to be 10 years from now. But someday down the road, there's going to be problems. Third thing is from a business standpoint. The 2000 2011 numbers, I believe, were released today, and Wisconsin's exports for 2011 were $22 billion. $2.8 billion of that was agricultural exports. Our agricultural exports grew by 18% in 2011. So agribusiness is a huge business for the state of Wisconsin. It comes from the farmland we have in Rock County, in Greene County, all over the state. So, as I have for the last 4 years on the council, I will continue to not support annexations and paving over farmland. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, we have a motion by Councilmember Rashkin and a second by Councilmember Dongera Adams to adopt file ordinance number 2012-506 and file ordinance 2012-507. Council, please vote. And that passes with Councilmember McDonald in opposition. We're now going to go to item number 5 under old business. Action on a proposed resolution amending the project plan and boundaries for tax increment financing district number 35. File resolution number 2012-875. Vic.
Thank you, Council President Stieber. Vic Grassman, Economic Development Director. If you bear with me here, trying to get the right, there it is. Staff is proposing to amend the boundary of TIF 35 to include an 81-acre parcel to be acquired by the city located east of Highway 51. It's that yellow area there. Just for clarification, the site is 84 acres. However, we're required to essentially, the township is in this area, and we can't create an island. So 3 acres, or literally a 50-foot wide strip along this red line, keeps it from being an island. So there's understandable confusion there, but we're purchasing 84, but we will be, and annexing 84, but will be, for the TIF, it'll be 81 to maintain that island. The original TIF 35, as you can see, included 226 acres, what's known as the shovel-ready certified site. It was voted on by the City Council in August 2011. The proposed amendment is being created to accommodate potential industrial development on this new land parcel. It was approved, as mentioned before, by the Janesville Plan Commission on February 6th. It's zoned M1, and its use is consistent with city plans and policies, including the comprehensive plan and growth concept plan. You've had a chance to take a look at the amended TIF plan, and essentially we can spend money for the first 15 years of a life of the TIF, and the life of these TIFs is 20. So this is comparable for that. And it's considered when a tax increments exceed TIF costs over 20 years, the TIF is considered economically feasible. And I wanted to quick show you the updated expenditures. And it's, you can see where the crossed out areas and then the gray areas would include the TIF. Transportation improvements remain the same. Essentially, if Shine goes there, they'll have a private drive. Water and sanitary sewer costs remain the same because to get it to the certified site, we need a looped water system, i.e. one coming from Prairie, Beloit Avenue and County G, and one coming from 51. We'd have to do it anyway. So there's no additional cost, as well as sewer. The existing sewer, because of the topography, 2/3 of the certified site can be served off Highway 11, but the bottom third needs to be served from Highway 51. So essentially we are allocating $343,000 of that $2.8 million to the Shine project, but if Shine wasn't there, we would have had to spend it anyway. The stormwater improvements, the difference there is the $578,000, which is essentially the Shine will have to pay that, but they have chosen to take those funds as a forgivable loan sometime during 2012. The project incentive financing, the change there is $1,500,000, and that is being proposed in the development agreement with Shine as a forgivable site development loan. Marketing and administration remain the same, and then the land acquisition is $1,531,824 for a total cost of improvements of $17,611,324. Expected closing date for this purchase is February 29th, and thus, as Economic Development Director, I recommend the Council adopt file resolution number 2012-875. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Councilmember Rashkin.
Thank you. Vic, first of all, we are looking at a parcel of land that's right next to a 200-plus acre parcel of land, and we're looking at this 80-plus acres specifically at this point for Shine project. Can you tell us why that particular parcel is important for this project versus 200 acres or some other parcel within the city?
It's a very good question. Shine is looking for whoever develops their building the eligibility to apply for a USDA loan guarantee. In this case, it'll be about $10 million, which is the maximum loan guarantee. Geographic eligibility is based on census data. So, for example, our certified site would have been eligible because in 2000 it was considered rural through 2010 for this program. In this case, because it is no longer eligible, obviously the census is passed, we're looking at the 84-acre site because obviously it's still in a rural township. By definition, it was the 2010 census in a rural township, and it would be eligible for a loan guarantee through the year 2020, even if we purchased it, just like we purchased the shovel-ready site. Eligibility is based on census data, not ownership. So that's why we did not look at the 226-acre site, because it would have taken away that geographic eligibility to apply for that loan guarantee.
So we have USDA literally encouraging us to get more land.
I can't say that.
I can't say that either. Oh, wait. So, and then the other question that I had is, a speaker brought up that we are shifting money from TIF to TIF. I thought we just closed the TIF and dispersed some funds.
That's correct. Yeah, I believe by state statute we're required to divide up the surplus funds. For example, in TIF 14, we distributed it to the appropriate taxing jurisdictions. We closed TIF 14 in 2011, including Janesville, Janesville School District, Blackhawk Technical College, the county. So it's not shifted. It's we have to make the accounting clean. And then, of course, after that, the increased revenues resulting from a TIF initiative after the TIF is closed, then those jurisdictions also benefit from that increased revenue.
Okay, very well.
To be specific
Yes,
on that
sir.
question, we did just close out a TIF at the end of last year, and that TIF closure dispersed about, and I can't remember the exact number, but it was around $1 million back to the various taxing jurisdictions, which then reduced tax burden across all those
I think it's an important point to
jurisdictions.
make. Thank you. So, with that in mind, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2012-875, approving the amendment of the TIF 35 project plan and settling the boundaries for TIF number 35.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Rashkin, second by Councilmember Voskel, to approve file ordinance 2012-875. Councilmember Rashkin, do you have anything else?
I'll just say this is economic development at its most economic developmentist. We have to, we have TIFs to work with. That's our main tool. I'm not saying that's the best tool, but that's the best tool we have right now. And so this makes sense. This is part of ensuring our future here. So thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Voskel, nothing? Seeing no other lights, we have a motion and a second for file resolution 2012-875. Council, please vote. And that passes unanimously. We're now going to go to new business number 1. We'll come back to old business number 4 shortly. But new business number 1, action on a proposed resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a TIF development agreement with Shine Medical Technologies. File ordinance 2012-882. Vic, you're on again.
Thank you, Council President Stever. Vic Grassman, Economic Development Director. What I'd like to provide you with is a short PowerPoint outlining the project, its benefits, the incentives offered, as well as some of the concerns. As we all know, Shine Medical Technologies is a startup company located in Monona, Wisconsin. This is a $84 million project for isotope production. It's been in the press and et cetera, but essentially for this meeting, they produce isotopes that have been used in cardiac diagnostic stress tests for a number of years, as well as cancer diagnostic tests. This will be a new production facility as well as a potential headquarters relocation. There'll be 125 new jobs at approximately $60,000 within 5 years. And I think it's important to note that the company has already initiated talks with Blackhawk Technical College to develop a 2-year associate degree to put together a special training for potential employees for this facility. So it's a good question relative to, you'd think there'd be a lot of PhDs, but essentially the vast majority of these jobs are going to be associate degree type individuals. They made a location commitment contingent upon the successful annexation of the 84 acres, the TIF 35 amendment, as well as approval of the developer's agreement. The production facility is expected to be approximately 35,000 square feet. The company, during the term of the loan, or until they pay back, will guarantee a $25 million assessment, even if the building isn't exactly at that level. Property tax payments are estimated at $583,282 beginning in 2017, and this repayment process should end in 2025, assuming the current timeline, and I'll get to that a little bit. As I mentioned, they're going to guarantee 125 jobs within 5 years, and I think it's important to understand that the city's incentives will not be distributed unless very specific benchmarks are achieved, and I'll go into those a little bit later. I think it's also important to note that the funding source will be TIF funds, and all interest and costs associated with that, temporary financing costs, have been included in the calculations for this project. Even though some of these numbers are pretty big, for most of what we're being used for is our traditional TIF project. It's land valued at $1.53 million. Utility extensions, that's what I mentioned before, $345,000. There's a $578,000 forgivable loan, which is equivalent to the stormwater assessment, which would still need to be paid. And there'll be a $1.5 million forgivable loan for site development and equipment purchases. Perhaps the one non-traditional use of TIF funds will be a loan guarantee of up to $4 million. As I mentioned, there's incentive package benchmarks. Notice of a Phase 1B award from NNSA. What that is essentially the United States government, through the Department of Energy, awarded 4 companies $25 million each to stimulate the development of technology to produce Moly-99, because as you may have read, there's no U.S. producers, and there's anticipated to be significant shortages, running about 40 to 50,000 tests per day. That's pretty significant in the U.S. alone. So the Phase 1B award is essentially, Shine was awarded the $25 million. They've got a portion of it already. This would be the next portion that they could give out before the results of the NEPA, or the environmental analysis, is completed. Successful accelerated reliability tests, that's essentially a test. And by the way, the 1B will probably be done in March of this year. The accelerated reliability tests will be essentially testing the process to show its commercial viability, and the company has told me that UW-Madison will be there to verify the results. It's also important to note they'll receive a construction permit from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, as well as a City of Janesville building permit. And in the development agreement, we have made it a requirement that the byproducts that the facility gives off will have third-party approved storage, but most importantly, Shine will have an appropriately approved removal plan that the what would you call it, the byproducts will be there no longer than 5 years, and then they'll be taken to a permanent storage. And the city will also be putting mortgages and liens on equipment for collateral purchases. It's also important to note that the $578,000 forgivable loan, to my understanding, will be done after the accelerated reliability test. But all the rest of the incentives are essentially on hold until the building permits and the third-party approval of storage has been put in place. So essentially, we're not putting forth a significant portion of this incentive until they're ready to put a shovel into the ground. Direct economic benefits, 125 new jobs. I think the editorial of the Gazette said it put about $10 million in the economy. People can guess, but essentially if you do the math and a very conservative multipliers, 2 times or 2.5 times new dollars coming into economy, and still it's pretty significant for local business and services. Increased property taxes, the $25 million equivalent assessment and the annual payment. And certainly there'll be, we expect, although the company has not committed, but it's certainly hopeful, there'll be potential expansions by Shine and also the potential attraction of other firms. I put indirect economic benefits. I think this is a game changer for Janesville. I think will lead relative to its transformation to, I can't think of a higher definition of advanced manufacturing. And certainly when you have North Star and Shine in the same county, we're going to get significant media attention, business periodicals, science periodicals, and et cetera, which can only enhance Janesville's ability to attract future companies. Associated risks, timing. Shine has put forth a timing relative to when they expect construction and et cetera, but I think they would acknowledge that there's no guarantee in the federal regulatory process, so the timing may be interrupted relative to how that turns out. And obviously it's important to note that we're not putting significant amount of money in until they're ready to put a spade to the ground, so we can absorb that timing. Environmental process, obviously this company will be regulated to the highest order by the federal government. They have to do the appropriate NEPAs and et cetera, and right now it's just too early. They haven't started those processes. I will tell you that they've been monitoring the water table in that site. They have to do it for 12 months. They started in August of 2012, but it's just too early, but obviously they're going to be regulated by the federal government. I think it's also important to point out that none of the 4 companies, remember I mentioned 4 companies got 25 million, at this time have demonstrated that their processes are commercially viable. And certainly the loan guarantee is kind of a non-traditional use of TIF. And competitive factors was mentioned in the paper, other countries and et cetera. We are told, and it makes sense if you look at the U.S. market, that there is plenty of room for both North Star and Shine, but obviously that remains to be seen. But right now when you have no U.S. producers, you have a product that has a limited life, there's a significant demand in the U.S. alone. So based on that, I would like to just let the council know if you have any questions. Greg Pfeiffer, the CEO, is here in the audience. He can talk about the technology and future growth. Van Brynen, the COO, can certainly talk about worker and public safety environmental issues. Steve Hathaway, CFO, financial questions. And Rock Mackey is the Director of Medical Devices at the Mortgage Institute of Research. And he can elaborate, if the council so wishes, on the importance of this project to the Institute. They have an investment in it too, as well as UW-Madison. So staff would like to recommend that the council adopt file number 212882. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Voskuhl.
I don't have any questions right now for Vic. I would, if at all possible, Council President, would ask that
That's
Mr.
fine.
Pfeiffer and his team come to the podium, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
I'll stand up to whoever's the right person. It'll be easier.
First of all, before I start, I want to thank Vic. Thank you very much. I know that, as we've all heard and as we all know, this has been a very long time coming and a work in progress for a couple of years. So thank you very much for summarizing it as succinctly as you did. First of all, regardless how this vote takes place, I just want to say this is an extremely exciting time for the city of Janesville to have this opportunity and to have these individuals here to talk to us this evening. So I know that there's been some commentary both for and against, but I think if you look at the big picture, folks, this is an awesome discussion that we're having, and we can't lose sight of that. So that being said, some of the discussion, Greg, has been around some concerns regarding regulatory, safety, particularly environmental and the byproduct aspect of it. And then kind of along that same line, there's been some questions, if you will, or discussion about uranium and kind of, so I think if you could talk a little bit about the Molly 99, and I don't know who you want on your team to discuss that, but I think if we can at least initiate the discussion, that would be great.
Good. I'll start with just a couple words, and then I'll turn it over to Van, because he's really the expert in facility safety, public safety, and environmental safety. One of the speakers did ask the council, is it highly enriched uranium or low enriched uranium? I believe most of the council members know the answer to that is low enriched uranium. We've been working with the city a long time, and actually the 4 grants that were given by the National Nuclear Security Administration are given to prevent nuclear proliferation. So these are part of a program not just to produce the medical isotopes directly, but to produce medical isotopes without the threat of nuclear weapons, which is how they've been produced up until now. Our process is no different. I also just want to point out very top level that this technology eliminates the nuclear reactor, which is traditionally used for medical isotopes. That's the primary source of radioactivity and the primary source of nuclear waste involved in medical isotope production. So it really has gotten rid of the ugliest things that go with this. So you can't quite look at it as if it were status quo technology. So that's my top level response. Van, do you want to talk a little about our commitment to safety, public and the environment, and then feel free to go back and forth.
Sure, I appreciate your time tonight and the ability to talk to you a little bit about what the environmental concerns can be with a facility like this and what kind of scrutiny we face in doing such. The nuclear business is one of the most highly regulated businesses that you can get into. So we couple that with the second most highly regulated with the FDA and the pursuit of pharmaceuticals. So we have an extremely high visibility with outside independent regulators looking at everything that we plan to do and everything that we do. And there's been a lot of talk about the NRC, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and what they're doing, but they're not the only ones that look at us. We'll also have permits from the state, and then we'll have to meet the requirements of the city of Janesville. So we're going to have a lot of outside people looking at us. The first part of this process, as we talked about, was us demonstrating that we can meet those very stringent regulatory requirements that do protect starting with the worker, the environment, and the public. And so that's what we're doing right now. And that's one of the reasons why our timeline is so long. The plant will be designed such that it can effectively deal with all postulated and credible natural events, such as hurricanes, tornadoes. We don't have a lot of hurricanes here, I hope. We have to deal with tsunamis. I hope we don't have any tsunamis here. But we have to demonstrate that we can continue to protect the worker, the environment, and the public through all of those scenarios. And what our regulators do is they go out and they hire a bunch of outside experts to come in and critique what we give them. And so these are really people that are out to do their best to find any weaknesses in our proposals. And we're confident that we're going to be able to address all those. It's a good physical location in Janesville. We've, as someone mentioned, we've been doing some preliminary work there. That's all part of us developing our environmental report that we have to submit with our construction license. And everything points to it's a wonderful site. And so we would very much look to becoming part of the community and coming here and helping out the city of Janesville and having its next generation.
Excuse me, Van, if
Sure.
I may. Would you address the discussion regarding the byproduct aspect of it and the housing of that?
There will be some, obviously, waste generated. It is a industrial process and a nuclear process. So we will be generating some waste that's more of a traditional industrial waste, just like any other industry here would generate, things like solvents. And we'll have to appropriately handle those consistent with state and federal regulations. So those will be stored on site, and then there's storage limits of how long we can store them by regulation, and then they'll be shipped to an appropriate disposal facility. We also have a very small quantity of radioactive waste that we'll have to deal with. Some of that radioactive waste will have very short-lived isotopes in it that we will be storing on site for a short period of time. We're still working out the exact period of time that'll be, but they'll be stored on site for a short period of time until they're shipped off to an appropriately permitted permanent disposal facility.
And could you talk about the type of that radioactive waste? I think that's important so that people have that in perspective, is what type of waste that you're talking about.
The main
And
component,
the type of exposure, I guess, is what I'm asking. Right.
the scale numbers I can't address yet. We're still in some of the design phases. You ask also what types of waste. We use an absorption process, which is basically like a filter. In the first stages of our process, that filter is disposed of after every batch. That's to give us the consistency we need to meet the Food and Drug Administration requirements. So those filters, once we run a batch of process, will go directly into a waste storage container, which also happens to be the waste shipment container. So that is one major waste stream out of it. The other major waste stream out of the facility for the radioactive waste are the laboratory instruments that we use for the final purification of the molybdenum and anything that we do in the characterization of that molybdenum, and also any residues that we generate from our sampling program that will look at what kind of emissions that we might be having from the plant and what we may take as far as environmental samples around the plant. Those things are things like plastic columns. Some of the columns are no bigger around than my finger, and things of that nature then that will also be disposed.
Thank you.
Councilmember McDonald.
Thank you. I just wanted to, I guess, as long as we're on that, start with following up on that waste discussion. Could you just again kind of let us know how much we're looking at? Because I think people hear about nuclear waste and they kind of picture barrels and barrels of waste. Do we have any idea how much radioactive waste you're looking at storing on site?
Yeah. So I'm going to take two tacks on this. One is the amount of radioactivity in the waste. That gives you some idea, some basis of comparison to other processes that might be found in industry. So right now, and Vanna is right to say we haven't figured out 100% when we'll be disposing of it. Certainly within 5 years is the developer's agreement. We're looking at the time closer to 3, possibly, for disposal. So at that point in time, the short-lived isotopes that Van described have all decayed away. And so what we're left with is a relatively weakly radioactive waste stream that is less radioactive, let's say, than a cobalt-60 source that can be found at any cancer treatment hospital where they're using cobalt to treat patients. So that's sort of the activity. It's not big in terms of the grand scheme of things. In terms of volume, what we have to do is put any type of radioactive waste into very special drums those drums, and Van can elaborate on this a little bit if he wants, are essentially rated against impacts, fires, everything like that. So there's a lot of packing in the drum. So you actually only get a very small amount of the drum to use to pack the waste. But it certainly would be less than a dozen of these very well insulated drums on an annual basis, and that's generating enough product essentially to treat 10 to 20 million people a year.
Okay. And then this, I guess the next line of questioning is kind of for anybody who wants it. In terms of the benchmarks, could we just go a little more specifically into that? Because I don't think we've had a lot of public discussion as far as when will the city's money be released, and what will the risks be, you know, that we're alleviating? What will the risks be after the funds are released each time?
Yeah. So I think Vic was trying to get it, but it didn't come up. Okay, well, I've been living this agreement for a while now, so hopefully I can just remember it all. So there's essentially two phases in which the city's money would be paid out. The first phase is the stormwater assessment money. That would be paid out after the Phase 1B award from NNSA, and it would be paid after the accelerator reliability demonstration. So you have to understand or try to understand the NNSA's process here, and I think Eric actually finally managed to talk to one of the NNSA representatives about their process. You know, they're vetting the technical and business viability of this all along. So a Phase 1B award means that we showed success of proof of concept in Phase 1A, which we did. We met all of our milestones, in fact exceeded them significantly, and also carries their endorsement that it's a viable venture going forward. The accelerator reliability demonstration shows that the particle accelerator technology, which we've proved in concept works, is ready for production. It would show it operating essentially for approximately a 5.5-day cycle, which is the cycle time that we need to operate it for in order to produce medical isotopes in our business model. The remainder of the funds come after all of the other milestones are met. There are no funds that come prior to any of the remaining milestones being met.
So what would the risks be then that city would still be looking at after all the other milestones are met? I mean, what are the other risks still associated with the project at that point that you see?
Well, they're risks that essentially, you know, go with any business at that point. It's, can you stay competitive in the marketplace? Is it a viable business going forward? I think that's always a risk with any business. We have a very high degree of confidence in our business plan. You know, there's a lot of comparison to other companies in the area, but we actually chose and could have chosen other methods of producing moly from this neat accelerator-driven neutron source. We chose uranium because of its commercial viability. We want to make a business that will succeed, and we believe that it's not only commercially viable, but that based on any historic price point for Moly 99 and essentially any anticipated price point going forward, our business will succeed and actually will thrive.
Okay, and then the last question I have for right now is, in terms of the loan guarantee that the city is being asked, the $4 million, why is that being asked of the city as opposed to a traditional investor?
Yeah, so it comes down to competition. We had 4 essentially very aggressive communities we were working with, 3 in this state. That is essentially what the city needed to do to become equal to the other financial proposals that were given to us. I really like Janesville. I haven't made that, I haven't been shy about telling anybody that. But it would be impossible to locate the business here, given the business interests of the investors and the board of directors, a non-competitive proposal.
But why? I mean, I understand $4 million is necessary, but why? I guess why city money as opposed to a bank? I mean, why would none of the local banks?
Well, it could potentially come from a bank. It's a guarantee, so it backs a loan. I mean, yeah, it's part of the overall incentive proposal. It makes it easier to get a loan. It's not going, by the way, to back any existing investment. Right. And it certainly wouldn't back an equity or stock investment by a venture capitalist. This will back a loan. That loan could come from a bank. That loan could come from an investment bank. It could come from an individual.
Thank you.
Councilmember Don Gary Adams.
My question is real simple for all you guys. And for lack of a better term, can you kind of toot your own horn and tell us what your resume is? Like Van, what's your past experience? Where have you been? They brought you up here. I think you came from Texas, didn't you?
Alabama.
Man, just kind of want to find out.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's important to know what
I'll
kind
go
of-
real quick
okay.
because everybody is, well, not everybody in the room, but most people in the council know who I am. So I'm the founder and CEO of Shine Medical. I have experience with 2 other startup companies, both of which are successful and still operating. Shine Medical was formed to take advantage of this gap in the market with Molly 99 and do so with, like I said, cheaper, greener technology. There is a window created by the failure of the very old reactors that the U.S. is presently dependent on for Molly, and so we formed Shine to go after the business. I got my PhD in nuclear engineering from the University of Wisconsin-Madison in 2006, and before that I got bachelor's degrees in electrical engineering and physics, and then computer engineering from UW-Madison. My roots are the Milwaukee area. I was born in Milwaukee, raised in Brookfield, Wisconsin, and then went to school in Madison and essentially been there ever since.
Let's start by setting the record straight. I am not from Texas. I was born and raised in Alabama, got a PhD in chemistry from the University of Alabama. I went to Colorado, began a nuclear career in which I've got over 35 years experience in the nuclear business, working at that point in a production plant. I left there, went to New Mexico with a consulting company. One of the jobs I did is I worked with the licensing and permitting for the waste isolation pilot plant, which was the first transuranic waste repository ever opened in the world in the community of Carlsbad, New Mexico. I will tell the council you ought to look at what's happened with Carlsbad because it has done nothing but grow with affiliated businesses that have come there as an outgrowth of that activity. Since then, when that was permitted, I went to Los Alamos National Laboratory, where first I ran a $1.7 billion program restoring part of the nation's nuclear defense system. Went on to manage all the operations at Los Alamos National Laboratory. For those of you that aren't familiar with the Los Alamos Lab, which probably most of you aren't, it was one of the first national laboratories, comprised of about 42 square miles with everything under the sun that you can think of there as far as materials of interest of radionuclides, explosives, things like that. And so I was responsible for all operations and safety for the facilities there. And I'm proud to say I had an outstanding safety record. I have a philosophy of I want to send everybody home at least as healthy as when they showed up at work that morning. Preferably a little healthier, but at least as healthy. So that's where I come from and what I do. Does that help?
And you have a southern drawl.
I do.
I'm Steve Hathaway. I'm the Chief Financial Officer of Shine. Have 30 plus years of finance and accounting experience going way back to my days at Arthur Anderson. Went to school at Miami, Ohio. Born and bred in Wisconsin otherwise, Neenah, Wisconsin. And I've actually had a long finance and accounting career. I took my last 2 companies public, company up in the Twin Cities, and also was CFO of Tomotherapy up in Madison when Tomotherapy went public. I'd actually retired from Tomotherapy. And no, I was actually enjoying my retirement when Greg and his team came up to me and said, you know, we had this little project and could you help us? And I volunteered to help, unpaid position to help with some of the projections for the government grant. And the more I worked on it, the more I fell in love with what they were doing and really liked the business plan and what was going on. Greg succeeded in getting the grant from the NSA, and he came to me and said, how'd you like to be CFO? And I said, I wasn't looking for a job. Well, I'm here, so I am the CFO of Shine and thoroughly enjoying it.
My name is Rock Mackey. I've been a professor at the University of Wisconsin for 24 years. Basically taught the main class on the campus on calculating radiation dose, so I'm an expert in radiation dose. I'm the founder of Tomotherapy, which Steve was the CFO for. Tomotherapy grew to be a company with 200 plus million in sales, 650 employees, recently sold last summer. I think that in terms of revenue, this company could be larger. I fully expect it to be the biggest radioisotope supplier in the country. Greg and I basically hatched the idea to partner. So the Morgridge Institute for Research, which is a private not-for-profit research facility that was set up on the campus to assist the university in large and complex projects. And so this certainly is a large project, $85 million project that involves the National Labs, University of Wisconsin, and two private companies, Phoenix Nuclear Lab, which Greg also founded, as well as Shine. This is definitely a great project for Wisconsin, and I think Rock County is about to become the center of medical isotopes really in the planet.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rashkin.
Thank you. Oh, that sounded nice.
Did you want to give your resume?
No. So I have just a few questions. Obviously, this is not going to solve the unemployment situation in Janesville. I think that we can all acknowledge that. What I'm trying to understand is when the 125 jobs that we're talking about, when are those going to become, materialize? What they're going to be, where they're going to come from, how that's going to affect the residents in your business plan. So if you could share on that, that'd be great.
I'll start at least. So essentially, you heard a little bit about regulatory uncertainty in this process. It's a new process, and that's partly where some of the regulatory uncertainty comes from. We believe it's a very safe process, and that's why we think it'll happen in our lifetime as a new process with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. We believe that it's possible to have plant operations in 2015. That assumes an extremely cooperative safety regulator, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So we're not necessarily sure that the probability of that is anything close to 100%. We feel more confident that it will be operating in 2016. Very confident that it would be operating in 2016. And extremely confident that it would be operating after that. So as time goes on, the regulatory uncertainty fades away. So it's potentially a delay. Now, we have seen very good signs of cooperation from the regulators so far and are hoping to be in production 2015. The jobs, where they're going to come from. Are
you going to have 125 jobs in 2015?
The plant would staff up to full almost immediately.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reason for that is the plant needs to be operated continuously, 24/7. And so the number of jobs doesn't come from a scale up. It comes from you need to operate those machines all the time, and certainly you can't do that with one shift. So we're talking about essentially employing 4 or 5, whatever shifts it takes to operate 24/7. So that's where most of the jobs come from. So yeah, I think we're looking at those full jobs essentially as soon as we get to full production.
How is this going to affect residents of Janesville in terms of employment?
Well, obviously the people who get jobs would be very positively affected by it. I think we see starting salaries as being pretty good. We've talked about those numbers, and I think as people get more experience, we feel this is going to be a very profitable company. So it's going to be very important for us to retain people and also reward them for hard work. So I think the salaries that we quote are at startup time, and they'll probably go up from there. You know, I'm no economic development master. I don't know how these jobs affect cities that much. You guys know a lot better about that. You know, Vic says he uses a conservative multiplier of 2.5 times. You're going to have a lot more people eating at local restaurants. You're going to have a lot more people shopping at local stores. So I don't know how all that works. Is that sort of the question you're looking to get answered?
Not necessarily. And I'm
Okay.
looking more in terms of the education level. That
Oh.
how you know because
Oh, okay. So
how is
so
this
how
going
are
to,
how is the local workforce going to
Right.
fit into our plans?
Precisely.
essentially? Okay, I see. I'm sorry, I didn't understand. So you know, I think there's some jobs that will require, you know, bachelor's degrees in nuclear engineering. The people who oversee operations of the machine, absolutely. There's other jobs that are highly technical. There's a lot of very high technical work that needs to happen to maintain the accelerators, to maintain the valves in the plant, to operate the manipulators and the hot cells and all these things that go on. And so those are the jobs that the people with the right personality and the right focus can do. Very disciplined people, very hardworking people, but not PhDs in nuclear engineering. They will require radiation safety training, you know, materials handling, materials accountability, and all these things that are very important to us. And that's what we're working hard with Blackhawk on, is to put a program in place like that, that they might take the existing, you know, electromechanical tech program that they have and augment it immediately in a way that could help serve us. In addition, help serve other employees in the Midwest corridor here. GE has a medical isotope plant in Arlington Heights, Illinois. You know, the university has an AVID medical isotope program. So it's not just us that these Blackhawk programs could support.
Right. Well, and I don't mean to diminish the value of 125 jobs. That's
Right.
It's huge. This technology has never been tried on this scale before. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What concerns?
Yeah, so Van had just added too, that it's never been tried all put together, but the pieces have been tried.
So like the wheel of the car rolls,
Right,
and the
exactly.
engine starts.
Yeah,
Okay.
But you know, can we put the gears in there and make them? Yeah. So it's basically that's what's going on. So the individual pieces have been demonstrated to work at the right scale. But so this is largely an integration effort to make the plant work. Nonetheless, it's never been done, never been shown to be commercially feasible. It's a hell of a lot cheaper than building a nuclear reactor. You know, and that's really who we're competing with. So when you look at building a nuclear reactor, which is typically a $500 million to $1 billion proposal, we start out with a tremendous advantage from an operations standpoint. The technical details of the project are that the uranium that we use in the process is reused. So we irradiate it once, we take the moly out, and we pump it back in the system, use it over and over and over again, essentially almost for the plant lifetime. The medical isotopes that are produced today use a once-through approach. So they form uranium into a solid target, put it next to a nuclear reactor. The reactor hits it with neutrons. They dissolve it, separate the moly, throw away the uranium, never use it again. Highly enriched uranium, I might add. So we feel our economic feasibility is very strong.
That was a lot of nuclear scientist kind of talk, wasn't it?
I can't get away from it, I apologize.
No, but it's, you know, I can't respond back to that. Maybe in Russian, you know, that might be. Right, okay. Is it fair to characterize, I mean, it sounds like you refer to the company as a startup.
Yes.
Again, there's certain risks associated with that.
The company's a startup, but I would point, and it has very few employees actually at the moment. You know, I think we're less than a dozen, maybe around a dozen direct employees, several consultants. I think we'll be growing to 20 to 30 by the end of the year. But I would also point to, you know, a successful track record, both of getting the support of the federal government and from getting the support of private investors. We closed an $11.5 million investment round last year. And we're able to, in fact, stimulate competition for that. So it's a really promising venture that a lot of people are looking at really hard. And I think it's an exciting venture. It's got all the hallmarks of a startup, which is better, cheaper, cleaner, you know, more sustainable, but at the same time fits into this huge established market where there's a need that's just developing.
How much of the, I think number was mentioned, $85 million?
Yeah.
How much of that $85 million is currently in place? Is Janesville's piece the last piece of that financial puzzle?
It's not. So I think, you know, the DOE program is around 25 million. There's 11.5 of funding already secured. Janesville fits into that. There's a number of other funding sources that fit into that. And then there's another investment round that we intend to close this year, and possibly a third round the year after that. But I have a high degree of confidence that we can indeed attract investors. And I think the city did a wonderful job in their due diligence, picked out a wonderful group of people, both from a scientific and market perspective and an investment perspective. And I think that that review should give you a lot of confidence in our ability to raise funds going forward.
Well, I think a lot of credit goes to our management team.
Yes.
So just because Janesville may approve this doesn't mean that this is a done deal for Shine. As in, there's other steps in the approval process before you're ready to put.
Yeah. No, it means
in the
that we're
ground.
going forward together. But yes, there are other things that
Just
need
to
to
be
happen.
fair about it, you know.
Yep,
This is.
that's correct.
All right.
I thought you meant from our perspective. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it is done for us if you guys approve it. But
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Councilmember Liebert, you have some questions?
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if this would be a question for Van. It's safety. Two types of safety that I had a few questions about. The first was potential of, what kind of safety work would have to go into some sort of fire response. Would you have to work closely with our fire departments, or would they have to get certified, or would any sort of special equipment need to be purchased on our end, or training-wise, to respond to a potential fire on site?
Well, that's a great question, and fire is always one of the primary things that's evaluated in evaluating any facility like this. Because no matter what protections you put in place, there's always a potential that you could have a fire in a facility. So we have to engineer the systems so that they can respond to a fire and contain any potential contamination based on what's called a design basis fire, which is the worst postulated fire that you could have in the facility. So we do have to deal with that, and we will deal with that. We will have to work very closely with the fire department. We had our first meeting, first real sit-down meeting with Chief Jensen today, and also with the Chief of Police today, talking about how we integrate and how we will start working together. So we're going over our plans, we're going over all the details of the facility, as best we know them today. There's a number of them, of those details that we're still working out. But we will be working very closely with them, because we will depend on them to be partners in responding to any potential off-normal event that we may have at the facility. As far as equipment and training, we haven't fully assessed equipment needs today. There will be training that will be required. We will arrange for that training. We're not going to ask the city to bear that expense, because it is unique to us. And so that's something that we will be providing. We talked a little bit about it today. It's a start, but we've got a lot more discussions to go.
And you kind of, I guess, then grazed on my second topic, which was physical safety as far as internal security. Obviously, without going into the secrets, would there be a private contractor, like private security firm hired, or do you have to hire? Obviously they have to be, firearm certified. Would they have to be, ex-military police? Is there a certain level, that you're looking at that you'd have to bring on board?
Based on the quantity of materials that we anticipate having there, we don't anticipate that there will be a regulatory requirement to have an armed security force on the site. That we would depend on local law enforcement for any response actions that we may have. And I've got to say, my discussions with the chief, I think you've got an outstanding police force here, and I have a lot of confidence that they could meet any potential needs that we may have without unduly straining what they have to do in addition to helping us. But I also have to tell you the same thing I told the chief today, that the Nuclear Regulatory Commission could impose requirements on us that require us to have an armed security force. If so, they also have extensive training requirements and certification requirements for those officers. But we don't anticipate that we're going to have to do that.
Thank you. And my next question was in regards to sales of Molly 99. Obviously, it's a startup company, and you talked about filling a gap domestically because of out of country. It's only produced outside of the United States. Is there a general percentage that you think will be? Will this all be sold domestically? Will there be a certain percentage that's also internationally?
Yeah, so our initial targeted plant output is approximately 1/2 of the U.S. demand. We think we can scale it up from there if there were demand, essentially. It's not necessarily a plant-based limitation. So we're shooting for 1/2 U.S. demand, which is about 1/4 of the world demand for molybdenum 99. We'll also be producing other isotopes that are useful for cancer treatment, such as iodine-131, in which case we'd be meeting also a significant portion of the U.S. market for those products. Does that help answer the question?
Yeah, it does. And would that affect the local? I mean, is this similar to milk in Wisconsin? The farther away you are, the more expensive it gets. So would it be cheaper for?
That's a great analogy.
Local markets.
It is. The reason, again, just like milk goes bad, our product does too. And so, the rough rule of thumb is about 1% of your product is lost every hour. So if you're shipping it to Europe, you may lose 20% of your product. So certainly in the United States, it would be at its highest value and its lowest price.
Okay, and also just one last question on the headquarters moving here. You're in Monona, right?
Yeah,
now?
not even yet. So you can see how fluid we are right now. We're moving our operations, which are presently in Madison, to Monona in the next probably month. Officially, our headquarters, I think, is now located in Monona.
And then when you said moving your headquarters to Janesville, that would be on site with the company, or?
Yeah. So what we anticipate is the first building we're going to build here is the production facility. We'll probably establish a presence in Janesville well before that's built, just probably with a rental property of some sort in the city. After that, we'll move our headquarters office, accounts payable, accounts receivable, all that stuff to Janesville as well. The point is to get to revenue before we do any more construction than we have to.
Well, thank you. That's all I had right now.
Councilmember Voskuhl.
Mine's a little bit of a segue from Sam's, and that is, we've talked obviously quite a bit about the developer agreement itself, but I think one of the areas that I'd like you to touch upon is the medical aspect, if you will, of the product, of Shine's product, and the impact that has, not only on lives, some of us sitting here in this chamber right now, but also the economics of the ancillary services. You mentioned that your product has a short half-life, and so as a result it needs to be shipped, and so some of the other economic impacts of ancillary services.
Well, let's answer that in two parts. I think there's probably nobody better on our team to answer the medical need question than Rock, and that's why the Mortgage Institute is involved in the project. So.
Yeah, so every day in the U.S. there's 55,000 procedures that need this isotope. In fact, half of them are stress tests, and so anybody who gets a heart attack gets a technetium scan that's based on taking technetium from a generator that is supplied by Molly 99. And then about another third is for cancer diagnosis, especially to find out if there's metastases in the bones. And so that represents roughly 2/3 to even 80% of the procedures is for heart attacks and for a cancer diagnosis. And in the case of a cancer diagnosis, typically if you went back for a follow-up, you would get a follow-up scan to make sure that there's no metastases in 3 and 5 and 10 year periods typically. And so lots of people get them. In fact, I'm sure there's many people here that have had relatives or themselves with a stress test or a bone scan.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think some of the other products as well. One of the advantages of actually using uranium-based product is that you get some of these other isotopes in addition, such as I-131, which is essentially the only effective cure for thyroid cancer treatment, especially if it's metastasized. Hyperthyroidism as well. Xenon-133 is another isotope we'll be producing that's used to diagnose lung function, lung efficiency. I think Alzheimer's is a condition that's detected with Moly-99. So there's over 30 active reimbursable procedures today that use Moly alone. And then there's all the procedures that use the other isotopes in addition. So it's a hugely important industry. It affects probably just about everyone's life in the developed world, either them or someone they know.
And then the economics of potential ancillary services as it relates to shipping. You mentioned that there's some other facilities in Illinois that you probably have had some connectivity with the community and bringing other businesses to that community.
I think for our ancillary businesses directly helping us, we're certainly going to bring business in to the airport. I think that's an obvious one. There's not going to be a whole lot of, I guess, supporting ancillary businesses other than the indirect things that you always have with a workforce in Janesville. One of my commitments, if Shine ends up in Janesville, is going to try to bring additional business like Shine businesses to Janesville. In fact, even not contingent on that, I've started to tell people how good it's been to work with the city council and particularly the city management here. I've been very impressed with their willingness to get things done. Don't get me wrong, the reason we've been doing this for as long as we have is because they are doing their best to protect the city and doing a very good job of it, in my opinion. But also are just great to work with. And so I think that's that's will be a mission of mine as well.
Thank you.
Councilmember McDonald.
Popping out. Thank you for all the information. Tonight I actually had one question earlier that I forgot to ask, and that is a few members of the public had asked a delay on this for 60 days, 90 days, and I guess that seems pretty long, but can you tell us what your next step is, or what you guys do after the council does their vote on this?
Yes, I really can't. I can elaborate on what some possibilities are. We have a board meeting later this week to discuss the outcome of this meeting. The probable result of an unknown delay is that we will re-engage other sites. We have spent a considerable amount of money and time in Janesville already. And without a commitment, I think after a significant period of time with the city leaders, we certainly would probably re-engage. I can imagine being directed by the board to re-engage those discussions.
And so if this was delayed 60 days, you're saying you'd re-engage. That's a 2-month period, or you'd. Well, you don't know because you have to talk to the board.
I can't.
About
Yeah,
it.
that's what the board
Okay.
does. They tell me what to do in that situation.
And if this goes forward tonight, what is your next step? I mean, does something go out to Nuclear Regulatory Agency, or what is the next step if this goes forward?
Well, one of the things that both us and Janesville have done on this project is make investments in sort of what I call good faith going forward. We've spent a lot of money on site characterization. The city spent a lot of money purchasing land. Assuming it goes forward, we've actually been doing work on contingent sites. We'll certainly stop that work. We'll move forward as aggressively as we can with the characterization of this site. We'll specifically focus on it. The submission to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission will come when the environmental report's done, and there's just nothing we can do to speed that up.
Okay.
Yeah, late fall.
And that was the August 2012 that we're talking
correct.
about. Okay.
That's just due to collecting data for 12 months, which is a requirement of their process.
Right. Thank you.
Councilmember Rashkin, you had a question?
Yeah, just to follow up, because that would kind of caught me, my attention, I guess. How long you been working on the site currently?
We've been looking at the site and doing preliminary work for I think it probably goes into September, but actually
Started in August with the
August
site characterization.
Okay, so we started site characterization work in August.
All right. And if the council chooses tonight to delay this decision for 2 weeks, you will feel that your board will feel that it's warranted to start aggressively looking at other locations.
I can't say what the board will choose to do. However, have been characterizing a backup site as a contingency.
All right. Thank you.
Councilmember Don Adams.
Well, I'm going to make a motion that we approve resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a TIF development agreement with Shine Medical Technologies, file resolution 2012-882.
I'll second that. So we have a motion by Councilmember Don Adams and a second by myself. Deb, do you have any further comments or discussion? I haven't asked any questions, kind of stayed out of it because I think everybody else had such great questions that I didn't need to jump into the fray. The only thing I will say is that this has been a long process. This has been one that I think both this council and previous councils have looked at very hard. We've had a lot of discussions. I give credit to Vic and his people, to Eric and the city administration, to this council, and I also think that it goes without saying that we also have to recognize a couple past council members, Councilmember George Bruner, Frank Parado, Bill Truman. They all had initially had a part in this and worked very hard to get this on board. As I've stated before, this is a game changer. The city of Janesville for almost 100 years produced automobiles. Started out at Sampson Tractor Company, producing tractors in the 1900s. Went to General Motors. Unfortunately, those days are done, and that stream has dried up. And although we can hope that plant someday opens its doors again, the reality is we have to redefine what the city of Janesville and this region is. This is one of those opportunities that can really take and define where we're at for the next century. And I truly believe that sometimes when you look at taking and making decisions like this, you have to be bold. You have to be willing to take and look at the larger picture. I understand that the money that the city of Janesville is about to possibly expend can be fairly extensive, but you also have to realize that we're looking at beyond Shine Industries. We're looking at other technical type jobs that could come in. We're looking at other medical research that could come in. We're looking at developing a region for the future. And I know that in some aspects this is a hard pill for some people to swallow, to think that we would expend that kind of money to bring this company here. But I think in the long run, the city, the region, and the state will benefit from what we're doing here tonight. And that's why I'm wholeheartedly supporting this agreement. It hasn't been easy. There has been many discussions where we as a council sat back and hashed things over. And there were tough decisions and long nights. And it's not one that we entered into lightly. But I can tell you that from my standpoint, I feel comfortable with the project. I feel comfortable with Shine's team. And I look forward to a long and very prosperous association with that group. So having said that, Councilmember Rashkin, your light was on.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure we didn't go into voting without saying a couple of words. So I want to start by saying, first of all, thank you to Vic. And thank you to Eric. I know that it's been said before, and we don't like to repeat ourselves unless we do. But in this instance, it really feels appropriate because this is a big task, and the fact that we have such an outstanding group of people standing in front of the council committed to bring company to Janesville, no small part of credit belongs to Vic and to Eric and frankly to the council. So it's been very, very interesting 2 years of ups and downs and negotiations, and I'm thrilled, frankly, that this process has been finally made public. I'm concerned that it was made public with 3 days or 4 days before a vote is to be taken. But that's just down the road. I think that there are certain concerns that need to be addressed. And right here in our memo, we have risks associated with development agreement. And I think it's very important that those are not being overlooked. So I'm going to read them because it is important, because we're looking at really serious stuff here. Shine Medical Technologies will have to meet certain federal regulatory requirements prior to initiating construction. These timelines are undetermined and could delay the realization of the above benefits. The majority of the city's direct financial incentives will not be expanded until these are met. There are environmental concerns with the process. The company is in the early stages of the NEPA process, and therefore Shine has not yet developed a plan to address these concerns. This will occur, but has not occurred yet. The city manager anticipates hiring an outside consultant to advise the city through the process, although the agreement only provides narrow discretion for the city in the future. This council are neither nuclear scientists nor environmental experts. We've done, I think, our very best to get educated, frankly, but I still feel that I am a few years short of a PhD. The 4 companies that have received DOE funding, including Shine Medical Technology, have not proven that their processes can work on a large scale. Our benchmarks do not, in the opinion of the city manager, provide the city protection that the technology will be proven on a production scale prior to distribution of our funds or prior to the facility being completed. The loan guarantee provides an added risk to the city, and the challenges facing the company that could put a portion of the city's funding at risk include economics of the project, federal regulatory process, competition, including subsidies from other countries which are part of economics, and providing a plan to manage any environmental issues. So it's easy to get excited about this. It really is easy to get excited about this. I think that fighting cancer is a marvelous thing. And I am thrilled that whether here or anywhere, this product's going to get made, it sounds like. I really hope it will, because, I mean, on a personal note, I lost my mother to cancer 10 years ago. My father is battling cancer right now. I would nothing more than for this project to succeed anywhere, and preferably in Janesville. But somebody has to be fiscally conservative in this whole mix, because coming out, this is a big gamble, and there's a cost to this opportunity. I keep saying there's a cost to this opportunity, and I really hope that the council will take a couple of weeks to think about this, because I'm okay. I support it tonight and at other times, purchase of the land. It makes sense. We need to control our destiny. I support the incentives to build the infrastructure, because we need to do it. But I draw the line at the $4 million guarantee to a venture capitalist. I consider my job, number one, on the city council is to watch out for taxpayers. Somebody has to stand up for taxpayers and say that this is more than we can bet, gamble, more than we can invest. If you look at the sheer numbers, there is over 20% of our city budget is going into this project. Not directly, thank goodness. But we are talking about an investment of nearly $9 million, and our budget is what, 41, 42, 43 million dollars? So are we in the right, is this our task to make these kinds of investments? I feel like maybe we're looking to cross a river that we really need to cross, because we need that economic development, and we have a great company with people I've been really impressed with who are looking to build a bridge, and they got an awesome plan, and we got to get across the river, but this material has never been used, and the bridge has never been built out of this stuff. And now we got to make this decision right now with barely any input from the public. Yes, we've been working on this for 2 years. But the project is not going to start until 2014, 2015, 2016. The city is not going to get paid the incentives back that are going to come back from property taxes until
Councilmember Rashkin,
2026.
Could I move to question, please?
No. Oh, sure. I mean, I didn't know. Do I have a 3-minute limit?
No. You can move the question any time, but moving the question means that you have to get a supermajority, right? Oh, you can't interrupt a speaker, though.
Okay, so, go ahead.
Thank you. My other concern is that this is, in essence, creates an arms race among communities for economic development. If Janesville is going to put up $4 million guarantee, that means that other communities are expected to do the same. This also means that I hope that we're going to create one heck of a reputation for our community for our commitment to economic development, because we're not going to have finances to attract new and other businesses, because all of the incentives from this TIF is going to go to this one project. Somebody has to say it. If the council decides to vote for this and decides not to give it extra 2 weeks, I hope as much as anyone that this will succeed, because I love Janesville and I think this is, you know, the opportunity that comes at a steep price. And I think that we are reasonable people who make reasonable choices. So I will vote on this accordingly. So thank you.
I apologize for the interruption, but I move the question.
Is there a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second to move the question. So the vote now would be to end debate, and so an affirmative vote would end debate on this, and then we would follow after that. You would go to voting on the main motion. So, anything at all?
You cannot debate.
Okay, so at this point in time, we're moving the question, and
it requires a 2/3 vote.
Okay, so you'd have to have four people. Okay, so with that, council, please vote. That be considered passed, then, correct? So that has passed. We are going to close the debate on the subject, and we go back to the initial motion to adopt file resolution 2012-882. Having said that, council, please vote. And that passes with Councilmember Don Guerra Adams, Stieber, Voskel, and Liebert in affirmative, Rashkin in opposition, and McDonald passing on the vote. So that takes care of that. At this time, I'd like to take a let's make a 10-minute break. Woo!